Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Sunday chat today is actually being recorded in the morning, which means I can get it loaded earlier in the day. Thanks to all the subscribers, thanks to all the people who do the thumbs up as a regular thing. It all helps the channel. The channel seems to be very slowly but still growing. As long as it's on an upward trend and doesn't keel over, then everything will be fine. I'm not going to do all the other stuff that goes with that. It has come to pass that the gremlins of life that actually balance the equilibrium of the universe and balance the good and the bad have taken a look at me and thought, you've had a fair old bit of good lately. I think we'll have to deal with that. So yesterday morning I got everything ready to go to the Christmas do, which is it's about 40 miles away, something like that. It's not a ridiculous journey, but it's nearly all sort of dual carriageway and motorway, so it's a fast journey. So I didn't even consider the journey. I thought, well, it's not going to take me an hour. It's probably going to take me about 35 minutes, something like that, on those sort of roads. So I was in no rush to get going. It was sort of 12 for 12:30. You know, I'm up at ridiculous o'clock, aren't I? Silly o'clock. So there was no panic in the morning. You know, I got myself sort of spruced up. That was all done. I had time to do a video, and everything seemed to be going fine. And I got the float for the raffle, so they've got some money to give change. It's always the way, isn't it? You know, the first person who wants one ticket walks up with a £20 note. So we have a float to deal with those awkward people. Anyway, got the float ready. I had a card that Hannah wrote out that last week's Christmas do for Lynn. Got that. Put it on the car seat. The key in the car. Nothing. Dead as a doornail. And basically, it could be an old battery that's finally just going. But the problem is I've been doing lots and lots of short trips, and it's a Volvo. You can't turn the lights off on a Volvo. So it's constantly battling to charge up because it's using, you know, as opposed to just the engine using the sort of charge, the lights are on full blast. You can't turn them off. I remember a comedian once said, you can put a Volvo through the crusher and that square comes out and the light's still coming out of the cracks. Anyway, flat battery. So panic. First port of call, sister, just round the corner and normally around. So phoned up my sister, what are you doing? So I'm just waiting for Ian to get out the shower. I said, I've got a flat battery, I've got the jump leads, is it possible you can bring your car round? I'll push my car backwards to leave a gap, just drive up with the nose and it'll jump start. That will get me to the Christmas do. If I have to, I'll get a jump start to come home. I can deal with that end, it's this end I need to get going because of the time constraint. Okay, so she drives round, got all the car ready, bonnet up, you know, one end of the jump leads ready to go, lift the bonnet up on her car, a flat sheet of plastic with bits in. You can't even see the battery. It's completely sealed in with things that don't seem to want to come off. So we couldn't do the jump leads. And she said, where is it? I told her where it was. She said, how long does that take? I said, it'll take about half an hour. It's just off the motorway, so you haven't got to go into the town or anything. She said, well, I'll take you there. She said, but I doubt if I'll be able to pick you up. I said, don't worry about me getting home. If the worst comes to the worst, I'll get lift to the station, get the train back to Christchurch, and you can either give me a lift from there, I'll walk if it's not raining, or I'll get a taxi if I'm fed up. And suddenly a bonus dawned on me. I haven't got my car. I can have a drink. So I knocked them back. The gremlins got knocked back one little bit. Oh, now you can have a drink. So anyway, my sister gave me a lift, and when I got there, Lynn was chairman was stood in the doorway of the hotel on the phone, phoning me to say, "Where are you? You're late." Well, there was a need for me to be there basically because of the raffle. It could have been managed without me, but you know. Anyway, so that we resolved that. While I was explaining to Lynn what had just happened, as a good friend, Alan, I've filmed his greenhouses before, so you have heard me talk about him, and his wife Sue does the catering for Wessex. They overheard the conversation, and Sue just looked up and she said, "We'll take you home, don't worry about it, we'll take you home." So within a couple of minutes of getting there, I've now got a lift home as well. So you gremlins, you got me, but not so bad. So perhaps they had second thoughts and thought, well, actually that was a bit naughty, it is his Christmas do after all. So anyway, got home, went next door, knocked on the door. "Have you got a battery charger I can borrow for tomorrow?" Got a flat battery. So we had a chat about the possibilities. I think it's just all the short journeys, you know, this time of year, lights on all the time, plus you've got the, you know, you've got the heater on, wipers are on because we've had rain, you know, you're just using the you know, the system. So I said, well, it could be just lots of short journeys have just tipped it over the edge. And if that battery was relatively flat when I got the car, it's almost impossible to get a battery up to full charge just using the car. You're using more, you know, a little bit less than you put in, but you can't put it in at a decent rate because the car's using it all the time. So it may be that it's just been low, and you know, all these short journeys, you know, to and from the house and that, have just done it in. So the idea is to put it on full charge and get it charged full, and then see how long it lasts, and it may last forever. If I think it's going down again, because you can tell when you turn the key, it sort of goes rum, or it goes rum, or it goes rum, or it goes it's getting lower and lower all the time. Well, if it seems as though it's starting to weaken again, there's a place I can take it to that will put a test unit on, and it'll test that the charging system is working, and it'll test that the battery is capable of taking a charge and holding it. So they can test all that. And because it could be that the battery's just old and it's dying. And modern batteries nowadays, once they go pretty flipping quick. Anyway, it's on charge now. It can stay on charge till it's fully charged up. It had been on charge an hour, so I went out, car started first time. Vroom. So, you know, there's life in the battery, so it's taking charge. So there we go. Gremlins 2, Roger 1. But then it was Gremlins 1, Roger 10, not that long ago, so I think the balance is still in my favour. So I'm watching where I walk, I'm watching all electrical items, watching my head, you know, because they'll be after you. You know, if your balance is too far in the good direction, they have to set the equilibrium, so you'll have to have some bad. Right, chat today, there's enough waffle about flipping cars. Talking to the guy next door. Everybody to do with cars makes money except for the poor sod who owns it. They pay the money. Yeah? You know, the people who sell the cars, the people who make the cars make money, the people who sell the cars make money, the government makes money out of the sale, government makes money out of you putting fuel in it, the people who sell you the fuel make money out of it, all the repair people make money out of it, all the spare parts make money out of it. All you do as owner is pay. Just pay everybody for the pleasure of having a car. Right, what I talk about today, I've done it before, but I'll put a slightly different slant on it, is we all know the different genera of orchids, and some specific orchids within that genera have requirements. And we also know that some of them have precise requirements, and if you deviate from their comfort zone, they don't grow very well, or they start going downhill, or they just die and won't even survive. So it depends how close in and narrow their comfort zone is. Some orchids have got a wide comfort zone, they'll put up with almost anything, like our humble phalaenopsis. You can treat them with abuse and they'll probably still grow and they'll probably still bloom. But there are some that are, you know, their requirements are quite precise. And I've got a mix. I've got some that like those quite precise conditions, and some that are not so fussed. And it's a mixture, and therein lies the chat. How can I have all this mixture in one place and get away with it? Well, first of all, I'm getting away with it with some because they're not so fussy, otherwise I wouldn't. And with others, I've had to contrive places to put them, and and sort of thinking about what's different about that shelf to that shelf, what's different about that side to that side, what's different to up there to down here, and adjust where the plants are positioned to actually accommodate that. And that really is the key factor. It's the position that does the trick, or not. That's why I often say if something's not working, first of all, look at your media, look at the dirt, because that's often where the problem lies. And if it isn't that, then move the flipping thing. Just try moving it. Sometimes just the other end of the windowsill might do the trick. Anyway, different environments. Now, obviously, my heater is on the floor. And if I just allowed that heater to come on, that heat would blow out from the heater and go straight up into the roof. And it would heat this place from the roof downwards. Now that could be a bonus, yeah? Because if the thermostat sensor is in the roof, then it will turn off relatively quickly. But that could mean that the lower area is actually getting quite cold. So to compensate for that, I have a circulating fan that comes on at the same time as the heater and wafts, and it wafts that heat and mixes the air in the whole place for the duration of the heater getting the temperature back up to where the thermostat wants it. So that's how I've compensated hot spots and cold spots for the heater, so that's a winter thing. And I do the opposite in the summer, because in the summer, in this place, not so much in the new place, the sun comes in the windows, and even though I've got shading on there, it still warms the place up. Where does that warmth go? Straight up in the roof. So what do? I have huge big circulating fans that stir it up again and mix it, yeah? That also moves the air, which is a bonus, and it also has a tendency to slightly cool the air, yeah? So I'm not going to go into extractor and inlet fans because I won't ever have them again. They won't exist in the new place, and they don't get turned on in the winter. I'm not sucking in temperature at -2. Not a good idea. Yeah, so that's to keep the air mixed up. And then I have one relatively slow circulating fan that stays on 24/7. And it's pointing across the middle. And obviously the air that comes out of it, that it pushes out, spreads. It doesn't come out in a channel like that. It comes out and spreads. Gets weaker the farther away from the fan. So it just gently stirs the air up. And it stops hot spots, cold spots. It stops dry spots, damp spots, because it's stirring the humidity as well. So it's mixing. So you might think, well, if you've made it all even and all the same, how are you catering for cooler growers and warmer growers? It's called they have to flipping put up with it. But there are ways of making a plant feel cooler, and that is get it out of bright light. Because the tendency in here is the bright light is up near the roof, yeah? And up near the roof, although I've just said that I mix the air up, there is still a tendency for it to be a degree or two warmer the higher up you go. And then we've got light levels. Well, light levels are the easiest thing in the world to accommodate, yeah? Because if you've got tiered shelving, well, the top shelf's the bright one and the bottom one's the dull one. That's easily done. So the light is my least concern. But soon it's going to become a concern, because when we get in the new conservatory, that sun's lost. I think I may get some sun on the end of it coming up over the house in midsummer, but for the rest of the year it's not going to touch that conservatory, which means I don't have to shade it. So it's natural light all round, but how bright is it? It's on the shady side of the house. Well, let's think about today. Cloud cover and drizzle, so a dull day, and I've still got the layer of shade netting on. It's pretty bright here. Well, imagine how much brighter it would be if there was no shade netting. So I think there's more than enough light for the orchids. And again, for those who don't really want the stronger light, there are tiered shelves to deal with that problem. So far so good. Now what about humidity? Now that's a bit of a pain, because in here there is really only one humidity level, and it's everywhere. So those that like a high humidity don't get it. Well, this time of year they don't. Temperature down this time of year, I don't want high humidity. It starts causing mould and things like that. Even with a circulating fan, it can start that sooty mould off. I've got a couple of plants that have got signs of it. So that's even with the air movement. It's just the cooler temperatures and high humidity are not a good idea. Higher temperatures and high humidity, wonderful, but not when it's cool. So my humidity level's relatively constant, and what I do in the summer is Hurricane Hector down here is set quite high, and I maintain a minimum of 75% humidity in the warmer temperatures. Now when you get the spring and the autumn bit where your daytime's still pretty good but your night times are starting to get cooler, overnight it goes up to 100%. That's too high really for a lot of orchids. You get away with it as long as you're not forming condensation. If you start forming condensation on surfaces, and those surfaces are the plants, it will happen when the temperature's at its low point. It's the dew point. It's where the dew would form outside, yeah? And that's not an ideal time to have quite cool water going down in your leaf joints. Even though within a couple of hours after daybreak they'd probably dry out. It's just not worth the risk. So try not to ever let your humidity get high enough that your plants get wet if your temperatures are lower. Now, some people swear by spraying to raise humidity, especially in the home. Well, if your temperatures are good, spray all you want. Wonderful. But if your temperatures aren't, that's not the best of ideas. So humidity I can manage, but it's a constant thing. So everybody in here gets the same humidity. In the warmer temperatures, I keep it high. In the lower temperatures, and we now introduce the short days, nothing much is growing. The humidity is less important. Yeah? But, you know, if we go round, let's grab hold of something. The requirement for this orchid is the highest humidity of any orchid I've got. This is a Restrepia. And if you can't keep the humidity high enough, what you will get is slight distortions on new leaves. They won't quite open clean, yeah? That's your telltale sign. If they are quite badly distorted, you just haven't got enough humidity and your plant's going to suffer. But these bloom nicely for me and they grow pretty good. So there's obviously just about enough humidity, but I do get the odd twisted leaf. That's happening mainly with new growths in the summer months, when although I've got 75% humidity, these would be happier with 95 at those temperatures, and they'd be a lot happier if they didn't have those temperatures in the first place. So it's a balancing act. These hang in there. Quite honestly, out of my cooler, shadier types, the Restrepias do best, and yet they're the highest humidity requirement according to the ancient scrolls and the books. Well, they're always right, aren't they? They are as good for information as a bloke up the pub. Well, where'd you find that out then? Oh, bloke at the pub said. Well, it must be true then. Verify your facts. So I thought that was somebody coming in the door. Unfortunately, my extension leads had to go out through the front door. It won't go through the letterbox. The plug won't go through the letterbox. So the front door is actually slightly open at the moment. So anyone could walk in. You know. Not that anybody would want to walk into a virtually empty house, would they? Not a lot to pinch. Yeah, so you know we've got those. Then we've got the next humidity requirement up the list. Really, is the Masdevallias. Now, some of my Masdevallias are growing pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty strong, healthy plant here. Is it blooming? Is it hell? Should it be? Probably. Why isn't it? Not enough light. It's on a low shelf, yeah? Well, when I get to the new place, I'm hoping to somehow or other magic up some extra space, or at least rethink. Now, we may have already done that earlier in this chat about light. Shade netting, it'll be gone. So how much extra light would a low shelf get? Would it be enough to trigger blooming? Maybe. As I said, the ancient runes say that these are heavy shade lovers, cobblers. They also say they like cool, high humidity. Well, some of them are actually intermediate, and some of them are up the warmer end of that. They're not all cool growers, and they're not all low light orchids. So maybe we can fire up some flipping blooms out of that one. That's probably, in fact it is, that's my best Masdevallia as far as the overall health of the plant and the strength of the plant is. And yet it's got hardly any roots. It's working on them. I can see a few little white bits, but it's not a lot. And yet it's staying green like that. Why is it managing? Cooler temps, shorter days, pretty high humidity. Otherwise it might not be doing so well. And other ones, in my cooler shadier, we've got this is my only Dracula at the moment. I'm going to have to show this off again, I'm afraid. This is Dracula Bella. Now that's not a happy plant. It's spotty, and some of the older leaves actually drooped over. Crikey, is that dry? Let me just deal with that. So I've been away, you know, this is the problem. The orchids are getting neglected. I mean, I have got these down to water tomorrow, but let's just make sure it's got some moisture in that pot. It's strange when I water the pot on the Dracula, it drips all over the bloom, and yet the bloom don't take any notice of it. Right, that's just enough to keep that ticking over till tomorrow. Right, so we have got the Dracula Bella bloom, which we all really like. That's a beauty, isn't it? But as a plant, this is not healthy and not happy, but it's getting better. Slowly but surely there are roots heading down into the pot, so it's now gaining a root system. Newer growths are not as big as they should be, but they're staying quite a bright green. And all the sort of spotty drooped over leaves, those leaves are probably 1.5 years old, and they were on it when I got it. So this one's picking up slowly. And again, Draculas, high humidity, lower light. Now have a think about Lynn's videos when she's showing you her Draculas. Are they hanging down near the floor? No. Where are they? So are they low light? That's somebody who's worked out places where things work better than perhaps in other places. That's practical experience. You don't get too much of that in the books. Listen to and watch the growers, especially when somebody has sort of specialised and done well. That's the thing, you can specialise in something and just keep killing them. Doesn't mean you're good because you've specialised, but watch and listen to the people who do well with things. I mean, I do well with a fair old bit, but not everything. I can't profess at the moment to have a great set of Cattleyas because they're in a mess. Well, I caused the mess, I know how I did it, and I won't ever do it again. But they're going to take probably a couple of years to recover. Higher light orchids, Cattleyas, warmer growers in the main. Some of them are not so warm. Things like, there's a fair few of the Lalias that are classed as slightly cooler than other types of Cattleyas. But in the main, they like very good light, bordering on the highest light you can in the UK. Well, how are they going to do in the new place? Without sun. Well, every time I get sun on here, we start getting heat. And to stop that, I put shade netting up. Double layer through the warmer days when the sun's higher. Yeah? So is the light going to be that low in the new place just because the sun doesn't shine on the glass? When there's no shading at all, they'd just as well be out in the garden, out of the sun. So we may not have a problem with light. I still think I will, but I need to see it to believe it, if you see what I mean. And then I have got some what would be classed as highlight orchids, and without it, they might grow wonderful and have lovely green foliage, but they ain't going to bloom. I've got two Vandas, one of which is a cross with a Ascocentrum, so it's an Ascocendra, I think they were called. But those got reclassified as Vandas, so it's a Vanda. It's a Vanda hybrid, and it has lovely orange flowers on. And it seems to bloom whatever treatment it gets. And then I've got my big blue Vanda. Can I get that down? Because the blooms are going to go soon. They're going to have to go soon. It's been open for so long. But if I can just tease it out of where it is without knocking Dracula Bella down from the roof. I mean, this is my strong Vanda. This grows well. And last year it produced 2 spikes like this. But it produces a spike like that. And that's pretty good going. I'm more than pleased with that bloom, that spike. It's wonderful. I've never even counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10. And they're huge, you know. They really are large blooms. You know. So in here, I can grow Vandas and get them to bloom. That one's got cerulean in it, otherwise it wouldn't have that colour and that tessellation. But it's also got quite a few other things in it as well. It's quite a complex hybrid, that one, but it has got cerulean in it. This gives it that colour. That it's called blue. It's not really. It's a sort of a lilac-y colour. It's not true blue. And then we've got the Rhinantheras. Now, those are highlight like Vandas, and some would say even higher light. And in this country, direct sun doesn't do them any harm if, you know, introduced carefully. Now, cat hair. Whether I can get those to bloom in the new place, I haven't got them to bloom here yet, so I might never be able to get the Rhinantheras to bloom, in which case, after a couple of years, they might go to somebody else. You know, let somebody else have a go that can provide the brighter light. Tolumnias. They will take heat, and they quite like it. They can do without it to a degree. They don't like to get cold, but they've adapted to a different way of life, quite honestly. Let's just grab a little one that's low down. So they once were Oncidiums. They've now got their own genus, but they have a strange leaf. And looking at it from the end, like if you look at it end on, it's V-shaped with a V, and it's fleshy. So they're not like a normal leaf, grassy type leaf, like Oncidium types, normal Oncidium types. So they're quite succulent in nature, and they've evolved for their roots to take in water fast, simply because a lot of the time the only water they get is the morning dew. And as they grow on twigs, the roots run along under the twigs, the morning dew forms on the twigs and runs down, and the roots go, we'll have that. Job done. That's it for the day. But they tend to go Caribbean region, mainly coastal areas and islands. So they've got the humidity in the air most of the time, and that compensates basically. But yeah, so that's what I'd call in here an average orchid, because it will take whatever happens in here. It'll take the low winter temperatures, they just slow right down and don't grow much. However, one of them's managed to push a spike out in these lower temperatures and shorter days. You don't tend to get short days in the Caribbean, do you? That don't happen. So they're used to average day lengths that stay the same, roughly. Yeah? They don't get these huge deviations. But nonetheless, Tolumnias can grow happily in my environment. They like some humidity. Doesn't need to be silly high like in the cloud forests. Not that it doesn't need that. Just needs moisture in the air, some air movement. Wherever they come from, there's going to be a sea breeze of some sort. It's not going to be dead calm, is it? So some air movement. So what you're doing is you're sort of thinking, well, where does that come from then? How can I replicate that? And how exact do I have to be? Well, with these, it doesn't have to be exact. They're pretty tolerant. Don't like to get cold, and you can roast them and you can burn them in the sun. So take care. If they're getting too much light, they will tell you off. They will start getting purple spots, and if you don't deal with it, you'll get purple leaves, and then you could get burning if you don't deal with it. They're telling you, giving you a hint. Not all orchids do that. Yeah, so you've got averages. Now, in the Oncidium Alliance, you've got from cloud forests, Miltoniopsis and the Odontoglossums. So you're looking at cool, not too bright, and very high humidity, constant airflow. Those cloud forests, that's how they work. You've got that warm, moist air coming in from the coast, and it would like to just carry on like that, and suddenly there's this mountain in the way. So it thinks, well, we'll have to go up over that then. And as it goes up, it cools, and the condensation forms. Cloud forest. That's how they work. Plus it rains as well on top of that. So, you've got those, and then you've got some Oncidiums that are bright light. They're found in almost full sun, or glimpses of full sun in splashes throughout the day, because they grow quite high up. Yeah. So as the canopy gets thinner, more shafts of sunlight get through. So at times they could be in a full blast of sun, but it probably wouldn't last too long. So go careful. So you can't do care by genus, because there's too many variables within it. Unless you've got a genus that's only got one orchid in it, in which case that's how you look after it. Oncidiums, infinitely variable, from ones that like to stay warm to ones that are up the lower end of intermediate to ones that are genuine cool growers. And you've got pretty high light. I won't say high light, because not Cattleyas pushing your luck, Cattleya light. Just below that, some of them a bit lower than that, and others shady for the UK. Yeah, so they vary a lot. Miltonias come up the average Oncidium conditions. They're fine. As I said, the Miltoniopsis don't like to get warm. They prefer the humidity to stay pretty good, and they don't like to dry out around the roots, except for possibly the shortest possible time. They will put up with that, but not for days and days on end. So the roots are quite fine. There are currently 5 Miltoniopsis species, and I've got 3 of them, and a hybrid between 2 of them, primary cross. So I'm not doing bad out of them. I wonder if I could ever get the other 2. Quite honestly, Miltoniopsis, if you haven't got the really good conditions that's almost spot on, I wouldn't say don't grow them, but I would say stick to the vigorous hybrids that you can get on the market. The mass-produced ones, because they will have that vigour and they will have more tolerance. So you might be pretty successful with those, whereas other people fail miserably with them. I don't do well. Miltoniopsis today is too warm in here in the summer. Well, what's it going to be like in the new place? Am I going to drop that intense heat over 16 hours of day length? It's pretty stressful, isn't it, if you think about it? For orchids that come from day lengths of 11 to 13 hours, to give them 16 and heat for the biggest part of that, it's not doing them a lot of good, is it? So we may have better growing conditions in the new place. All I've got to do is satisfy myself about light levels, because on the surface it seems like my light levels aren't going to be good enough for some of my plants, but on reflection I may have got that wrong. That's a time will tell. We're going to have to wait for those summer months and see how much of the roof the sun actually hits and for how long, because there are some pretty big trees in that area. So the sun can go as high as it likes. It's not going to come over the top of a tall tree. So we'll have to wait and see. There's a gap between the biggest tree and where the sun will disappear to, that little gap there. That could be 2 or 3 hours worth in the height of the summer, and that might hit half of the roof. Well, all I need to do is put some shade netting on half of the roof. It's coming from above. I don't need to worry about the sides, so we shall see. Anyway, that's just a sort of chat about trying to judge your conditions. I mean, I've always said work out what your conditions are and then get the orchids that will be happy with it. It can't always work like that. And conditions change. I mean, homes are the They can be the most awkward of conditions. Depends on what part of the world you're from. But if you get, it depends how heat tolerant you are as well. There are people in the UK that during the late spring through to early autumn, every window in the house is wide open. Orchids, fresh air movement, and not getting too hot. Yeah? Well, that's pretty good, isn't it? What's going to happen in the winter then? All the windows are slammed shut and never get opened again. Oh, it's cold out there, we don't want that in here. And, well, I'm a bit chilly, we'll put the heating on. So what have you just done to your orchid's environment? At the time of year when your days have shortened right down and they're not growing that much, you've warmed them up and taken away their humidity. You have to work with that. You know, so sometimes the home sounds like a flipping good place because you've got full control, but you haven't really, because people live in it, and the people usually come first. You know, and what's comfortable for you, you know. When do we tend to sit down and relax? And that's the time when a little bit of a chill is not comfortable. So most homes in the UK are probably at their warmest from late afternoon to bedtime. It's dark. What are your orchids doing? They're asleep. They'd like it cool, thank you very much. It's night time. They don't like it hot at night time. So you're doing completely the opposite than what your orchids want. But maybe there's a room where you don't want it at 22, 23 degrees at 9 o'clock at night. So, you know, think things through. And as I said, you know, it might mean that some of your orchids don't grow in the same place in the summer and in the winter. Wait and see. Right. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Because this Sunday one always takes a while to process because it's quite long. How long have we been waffling? Just over 35 minutes, that'll do. The longer it gets, the longer it takes me to process it. And all I've got left, my actual job that I must complete today, or I'm going to have to get up early and do it tomorrow, is getting the rest of the stuff in the shredding bags, getting them all zip tied, and getting them down by the front door, ready to be collected tomorrow. I have had a text from the fridge and freezer people that says it's got a tracking number on it. Unfortunately, it's a text, and I don't mess about with things like that on my phone. So, if you've got a problem, YouTube or internet, so you type into the internet, how do I send a text to an email address? Well, what you do is this, 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 and this. Thank you very much. So if I send it to my email address, I'm happy to have an email on my phone and hit the tracking button. But what I will do is track it on my laptop so that I don't have to do it on my phone, because obviously I've got the mail on the laptop as well. But yeah, first thing Tuesday morning, I'm hoping to be able to have at least a guesstimate of the time the fridge and the freezer are going to arrive. But it's not a nice day Tuesday. Sometime on Monday I'm going to have to get some sandwich packs or something, get some food organised, and first thing Tuesday morning, I've got to be there by 7 o'clock. So we're looking at 6 o'clock in the morning. I've got to gather the kettle, the food that I've done, the coffee, some milk, some sugar, so that I've got sustenance in a place that I haven't moved into yet, just waiting on the fridge and the freezer. Now, if they turn up at 10 o'clock in the morning, brilliant. But if they turn up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I've been there since 7 in the morning, you know, I'm going to need food. And I can't go out. I can't miss them. If I miss them, they'll want to re-deliver at another date and they'll charge me for it. So it's just a hardship day that I've got to put up with. It's not the end of the world. It'll be the first time the house has got warm because I'll actually put the heating on and leave it on for a bit, warm the place up. Yeah, so I've got to get that shredding done. We've got Tuesday to put up with. And then after that, with the fridge and the freezer delivered, moving in can be any time. From that point, any time, because you know, I can pack up what's in the freezer in a freezer bag. 15 minutes later, it's going in a freezer. It's not like it's going to thaw out and the food can go over. You know, I'm on my way. And I'm happy now to move in over there while the orchids are still here. Because they're needing minimal maintenance at the moment, I can just drop back. I can just drive over in the car. The RO water and unit can stay here where they're needed. So I can maintain them here for as long as I think, until there is absolutely nothing left to do, at which point concentrate on this and hit it. You know, start early in the day. I reckon it won't even take half a day to pack these plants and get them through that door on the floor. And once they're out of the way, it's just a matter of grabbing hold of things and chucking them in the car. And when no more will go in, we drive over, get it all out, come back. Not try and set that up, wait till I've got it all over there, then set it up. And that may well be the following day because I'll have had enough. So go over, set it all up, plug stuff in, get the shelves where I think I want them. And then when it's all up and running, thermostats tried and tested, everything's working, everything's ready for the plants, then come back and start loading the plants. And that would probably be day 3. And they won't go in one load, that's for sure, because they have to pack flat. You know, you can't start stacking that sort of thing up, can you? Oh, let's stack all the cattleyas on top of the oncidiums. That's going to work, isn't it? So the plants will take a fair few trips, possibly 3, maybe even 4. But so be it. I don't care how many trips it takes. I just want to get them over there safely, and just hope we don't get bitter cold weather at the time. Because the only cold they would have to put up with is between my front door and the back of the car. Because literally I would put the crate down, lift the back of the car up, the engine will be running, car will be warmed up to a suitable temperature, slide the crate in, slam it shut, come and get another one until there's no more room in the car basically. But because I'll be on my own, the 2 back seats are lost, they're down flat. That gains me a lot of space. But I've also got the footwell of the passenger side and the passenger seat. So you get an extra crate on there, so I can fill that car right up. But I reckon at least 3 loads, probably 4, to do it safely. And then minimal time. When I get to the other house, I can back in, and I'll be that far, back door open, from the front door. Literally, so straight out the vehicle, straight in the house. So I hope to get no chill on the plants. By then, you know, the conservatory will have been warmed up to an appropriate temperature, so we should be okay. It's planned, but like when we started this video, we have the equilibrium gremlins. Good and bad. We can't let the universe get out of balance. So if you get too much good, watch where you're walking, watch your head, keep away from electrical things, Insa. You can't have it all good, it don't work like that. There has to be an equilibrium. And I'm joking, of course, it's all nonsense. See you next time. And I don't know when next time's going to be now. Monday, in theory, I've got plenty of free time tomorrow because all I've got to do is be here for when the guys come to collect the shredding bags. I haven't got to go out for anything, so I've got a pretty easy going day tomorrow. I'd like to do at least one more load to take over there, like get the Christmas decorations over or something, do something useful. But I can't do it until the people have collected the shredding bags, because I don't want to miss them. And then Tuesdays, it's a day I'm not looking forward to. You know, just being stuck over there. I've got no internet. I'll take my laptop. There's things I can do on the laptop without the internet, but it's just going to be a boring day. You know. So. Anyway, got to be done. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.